Well, I'm James Greengrass. I'm the practice lead at Veredus for permanent central government recruitment. That's the civil service departments, the arm's length bodies, non-departmental public bodies, and the executive agencies and security related services too. The market has changed very much in the last few years. When the coalition government came to power, a recruitment freeze was imposed, which slowed things down very dramatically for probably 8 or 9 months. We've then seen a gradual thaw, and while the market will probably never be as busy as it was at the high water mark, probably 2004, 2005, there is a market again, and we're actually very busy in terms of active permanent recruitment. I think the reasons for that are various. The largest being that what we're now seeing is some of the policies and legislation the government has introduced has created new vacancies and new organisations created, which has in turn led to roles and the need for open and fair competition, as there always is for these posts, and a need for greater commercial skills and experience of working with the private sector to be brought into government as they strive continually to do more with less. I think the government's very serious about recruiting talent, the best of talent from the private sector, and a drive to bring perhaps different skills and experiences into the civil service and arm's length bodies than may have been there before. We have certainly seen from a number of roles recruiting commercial directors and those to lead commercial procurement and acquisition, and those that partner directly with the private sector as suppliers to bring people that perhaps have been somewhat poachers in the past and turn them into gamekeepers in-house, to bring those skills in of contract negotiation and improving commercial edge, but also an understanding of the private sector mindset and how commercial organisations operate and want to get the best out of deals. Private sector candidates are often recruited for their leadership experience and the different kinds of organisations they've worked with. Government departments have gone through a huge amount of change, shrinkage in many cases, significant reductions in budgets and accompanying restructures, drawdowns. The private sector is candidly far more used to dealing with things like that and reorganisations. So we've seen an influx of candidates who have brought knowledge and leadership in those areas and understand how to motivate, and in some cases re-motivate a workforce, drive efficiencies through, and ensure the customer, the taxpayer, is getting the best value that they possibly can. Recruitment for government is subject to open and fair competition, and because of that, it always comes with a certain structure around it, a fairly clear timetable, and yes, there is a process, but for the candidate, I think there's a lot of benefits in that, in terms of clear milestones set that they know from the beginning. They know how they will move through it, and clearly we spend a lot of time with them explaining that, because we appreciate for many, particularly if they are coming from outside government and the public sector more broadly, that will be new for them. Private sector recruitment has plenty of frustrations in it too. It can be more freewheeling, but then I think back to my days of recruiting there, and there was often cases of indecision, timetables being strung out, lack of decision making. And I find one of the benefits of working for government and recruiting into it is there's a clear purpose, there's a clear structure, there's always a vacancy that we are recruiting for. It's clear what that role involves, what it can pay or not, and we do have some restrictions in that area. It's always very interesting talking to candidates who've come from a private sector background about what it's like moving into the civil service and how it contrasts with their previous lives, and whether it matches some of the stereotypes they may have in their minds beforehand or not. Many beforehand have visions of a yes minister or the thick of it environment they may be moving into, which I'd have to say I think is largely false. There is a perception of lots of red tape and delay in getting things done. And I think in fairness, in terms of the feedback, it can be a surprise to candidates coming in initially that there is a political process that often has to be moved through too, and that can take more time. And if they've come from environments where they've very much been masters of their own domain and can make things happen, the need for public oversight and scrutiny can be new. But most adapt quickly, and I think an important part of our role is making it clear to them from the beginning exactly what the job is going to involve and where they might find frustrations and testing them around those, because it's essential for us and our client that we find someone who can deal with those and then add real value to the role overall. I'd advise those thinking about applying for roles with central government to consider a few points. When you first come into contact with the role, be that through a headhunter like me calling you, tapping you on the shoulder, or seeing the advert online or in the press, we'll always direct you very quickly to the information brief we prepared, which will tell you far more about the role, exactly the kind of experience we and the client are looking for, what the job is about and involves and the challenges in it, and why we hope very much you apply for it. There's always the offer of an informal and confidential conversation with the consultants that are handling it, which we'd encourage you to take up once you've read the information brief, please. And we're very used to helping people make that decision on whether they should move forward with the application or not.